Brett Yormark doubling down on what the playoffs should look like. I'm here for it.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin, and thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in this, the greatest, and inching closer, craziest sport on planet Earth. Is SMU overlooked in the ACC race? I give you my SEC preseason power rankings on today's show, which is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 is here live from Big 12 Media Days, where Brett Yormark took the stage to begin things, as every conference commissioner does, Drake, and went up there and loudly and proudly said, I want 5+11. I think Jim Phillips and the ACC is going to do the same. That's what we're going to push for, because there's been a lot of blowback from some pretty big names in the college football world saying, no, this 5+11 idea is a disaster. And if they were to go to 16, Brett Yormark saying yes on 5+11. I like that model. You like that model too.
I do, and I like what Brett Yormark said today. He was posed the question, okay, if you go 5+11, you saw the committee last year not give your conference very much love, and maybe part of that is the preseason ranking, and that's where Yormark says we can do away with it. We thought that Arizona State was disadvantaged by that ranking, so now let's do the little things that we can put our conference in a better spot when it comes to the College Football Playoff Committee meeting in a room. And he said, I have a lot of confidence in Mack Rhoades, who's the athletic director at Baylor, who will head the committee. And he said, I have a lot of confidence in an audit that's being done right now on how they choose college football playoff participants. SMU got in last year. They did the, quote, right thing by passing over an SEC squad and giving SMU that nod. I think that gives Yormark a little bit more confidence that moving forward, the committee won't screw the Big 12. In a format where you wave the white flag and say, yeah, I don't know, just give the SEC and the Big Ten whatever they want, you have officially created the ultimate schism in college football. There are now two conferences and everybody else. And that's already kind of a thing. But Yormark, in what he said today and talking about Jim Phillips working closely with the ACC, made it clear he's taking a stand. And I don't think that a dead man takes a stand the way Yormark did. I don't think he stands up on that stage in the stadium and says, we need 5+11 and I will fight tooth and nail. We're going to get it. You don't say that if you don't actually believe you can find a way to get through to Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey and have those guys loop it in. And I mentioned that as I was saying that earlier on my show, Yormark walked right behind me, sat in a chair next to me. And I just like, this is a guy that is an impeccable businessman. Business has been the theme all day here at Media Days. And I do not believe he'll stand to be strong-armed on this. Now, he also loves college football in a sensical way. He was the same guy that was more than happy to sign up for the auto bids, or the auto buy, I should say, for conference champions being done away with and just rank the teams 1 through 12 as good as they are. He likes to see it played out on the field. He's not going to say, oh, well, now you're taking away a better spot for my conference to get a buy and me to get more money. No, he's very reasonable about college football. He's not pie in the sky. So him saying this today shows me he actually has the full confidence that 5+11 is the model.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about, or one of the interesting things about this whole discussion is I do actually think that Yormark and some more pro Big 12 people have a point when they say, hey, these preseason rankings are screwing us. These preseason rankings are altering the perception of our league. I'm not going to push back on that entirely, because I do think with Arizona State, there's some legitimacy to that. I mean, they wouldn't have been heavily considered. They were a 10-2 team in the regular season of the Big 12. Would they have even sniffed if they hadn't made the Big 12 championship game with all the tiebreakers anything resembling a playoff berth? No, of course not. Whereas Miami did, even in the ACC, or the 9-3 SEC teams had all of this lobbying. But the way that I look at it is you then have to, and Brett Yormark has talked about this before, and I like this mentality, you have to then look internally and say, okay, if this is the game, we may not like how this game gets played and how you shift the perception of your schools and of your league in the eyes of some people who are not always coming to our games. But there is work that can be done. The SEC didn't get to the point where some people give them an inherent advantage in their mind by accident, by coincidence, by random. They didn't go and bribe the people directly. No, they went out and they, for many years, put results and a product on the field that made everybody look around and go, oh, yeah, we think this league's better. And then they leaned into the media and the marketing side of it to, shift the perception of their conference to where it just means more. It's the SEC bias and all this sort of stuff. I think the Big 12 is now realizing, okay, we've got to go and play that game. And what do you know? There are 3 5-star players committed in Big 12 in the class of 2026. That wasn't a thing when you didn't have Texas and Oklahoma considering into those conversations. And I think we're in the very early stages of it, but I just get the sense, Drake, that they are working to try and shift that perception. I think it can shift. I think Arizona State's game against Texas last year in the national quarterfinal was a huge step in shifting the perception of the Big 12 to make people go, wait a minute, they were picked to finish. Like I get the no preseason poll thing. Okay, but Arizona State picked to finish last. They go toe-to-toe with the runners-up in the SEC. That's got to do something. And if you go and do that over and over again over the course of several years, I do think that narrative can shift.
Well, and what it's going to take is a lack of parity. Yormark said he loves parity. Parity's fun. It's great. But the MAC has parity. Toledo could beat Miami of Ohio any given Tuesday. And in the Big 12, Yormark said we need 2 schools. We need a couple of schools, is what he said, to be elite, to grow into, because it's fun right now, but we need brands at the very top of this league.
Texas
That's what's
Tech.
going to help the Big
Sorry,
BYU Tech, the 2 schools that are giving the most in NIL money and landing 5 stars. BYU and Texas Tech seem to be those stalwarts, and if they can win consistently in football and men's basketball, you continue to grow your brand. In the ACC, there's Clemson and Florida State, and Miami's in there, yeah, for sure. But Clemson and Florida State are your 2. I mean, if you have a 3rd auxiliary brand and a 4th and a 5th, or whatever, that's fine. But the Big 12 needs a couple of universities that will carry this conference off into the sunset and showcase that the league can actually compete for national championships, something you have not done since Oklahoma and Texas left. And if I look around the league right now, I don't see a national champion in 2025. But in 2026, if Texas Tech builds on what it's doing in the transfer portal and with NIL, if BYU builds on its incredible recruiting because of its NIL prowess and power, if Colorado finds a way under Dion, if Houston, you're sitting in a recruiting hotbed. I mean, a beautiful place to say, oh, do you want grandma to come to all of your games? And I haven't said this on your show yet. 3 years from now, we might look up and go, Willie Fritz is the best coach in the Big 12. There's a chance. There's a chance.
He's good.
That a couple of these Big 12 schools could become that. And once you have that, it won't matter what model you use. And that's why Yormark wants the 5+11, mostly because if you do use that one model that says no matter what, the SEC gets this number, the Big 12 gets this number, then you're gonna lose out when you have a team finish 5th in the country, 6th in the country, and then Colorado's at like 13 and somehow gets left out for an SEC school because the committee will always have a certain bias toward the network that funds them.
Yeah. Do you know, I love the Willie Fritz love, by the way.
Isn't that crazy?
You want to hear
I said that?
It's not, because here's a list of teams this year that in my Big 12 preseason power rankings, I have behind Houston. Kansas, BYU, Colorado, Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, Arizona, West Virginia, UCF.
Wow.
All behind Houston. I was this close. If not for Josh Hoover, who I like more than Connor Wigman. If not for Josh Hoover, I would have put Houston above TCU. I would have done it. I think Willie Fritz is I think Willie Fritz is that kind of guy.
3 years from now, we're gonna look up and go, shoot, he did it. He recruited his backyard. He did the transfer portal. He got a 5-star quarterback. I mean,
big news.
This could be the thing.
Landed a former 5-star quarterback in the portal. Recruited a 5-star quarterback who wants to go to Houston so badly he didn't take official visits. He said, "Nah, forget everybody else. Houston's where I want to go." That's the beginning of a potential changing of the winds, shall we say.
Cojones. He's got cojones. Yeah, Big 12 Media Days has been spectacular. Cast of characters has been awesome. Ran into, you run into everybody, and everyone seems to be standing on business as it speaks. And that's a cliche, but there were no sound bites. There were little to no sound bites because it's just each of these coaches feels like they have as good of a shot as the next guy to win the Big 12 title because they do. We learned that last year. And Brett Yormark said, look, here's what I believe about college football, and I'm not going to sway from it.
Yeah, a lot of personalities there. You could even run into the party animals guy. Did you know that
Somehow.
he's there? Did you know that he's there?
A lot of people are taking a lot of pictures. They're getting a lot of autographs in this one guy in a floral shirt.
Yeah, big popularity there. Drake Toll locked on Big 12, or Drake 12, as we call him here on the show. Yeah, I have heard the exact same. I've also heard that SMU is getting overlooked in the ACC, or are they? First, this episode brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing. Whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, that's my kind of thing, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. And you're already following all of this action anyway, so why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach or whatever else they're doing this summer. And if you want to bet on college football, which you might, because you're probably a college football fan if you listen to or watch this show, there's like a 99% chance you are. The 1% that are just here to listen to me talk, look, I think you're crazy, but I love you anyway. But if you want to bet on college football because you're in the 99%, FanDuel is the place to do it. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. So when you think contenders in the ACC, where does your mind go? It's time to start thinking about these things if you aren't pondering them on a daily basis, because the college football season is about a month and a half away from actually beginning, less than a month and a half, as it turns out. Because Kansas State and Iowa State, a legit college football game, not just a teaser, not just an appetizer, no, a real, honest-to-goodness, played in Ireland college football game is a month and a half away. That's exciting stuff. So when you think contenders in the ACC, you should think of Clemson first. They are the preseason favorite in the betting market. They should be in everybody's mind. They should be a national championship contender, and I think they will be. Then you probably go to Miami. If you listen to my power rankings going into this year, you think of Louisville and Georgia Tech before SMU. Is that disrespectful to a school that played in the conference championship game last year? If you want to choose to see it that way, it's free country. You do whatever you want. Just like I can do whatever I want, opining about teams on this particular show. Here's why I'm not fully trusting SMU. Can you tell me in the regular season last year what their best win was? And I would like to preface this by saying I am someone who, this is well documented, you go back and listen to the shows at the time, I wanted to see SMU in the playoff. I wanted to see Indiana in the playoff because I want the results of the regular season games to matter. And yes, I want to factor in strength of schedule. I do not, however, want to ignore results or punish teams for making a conference championship game. So that's where I came at SMU's playoff debate a season ago. I wanted to see them in. Yeah, they got destroyed by Penn State on the road. Turns out Penn State was a really good team. And Happy Valley's a tough place to play, especially for a team from Dallas going all the way to the northeastern part of the United States in December. It didn't go well. Okay. Tennessee got destroyed. You're taking them out of the playoff too? No, of course not. So, last year, SMU's best win came on October 5th. They went to Louisville, who was a good team, not a great team, but a good team, was ranked at the time. They walked in there and walked out with a 34-27 win over the then 22nd ranked Louisville Cardinals. Now, they beat Pitt, who was ranked later in the year. To me, Pitt was a bit more of a paper tiger than Louisville was. I liked the Cardinals last year. I like the Cardinals this year. It's why I have Louisville with Miller Moss at quarterback, power rated number 3 in the ACC going into this year. So I do like Louisville, but those were the wins. Those were the quality wins. And SMU brings back a good chunk of their team from last year, including Kevin Jennings, their quarterback. Rhett Lashley's proven to be a good coach. They've got all the resources that they need. But do you know the other big game, or the next biggest game, or arguably the biggest game that they played all year? Second week of the season against BYU. Nobody thought a lot of it at the time, but BYU was one game away for making the college football playoff. SMU did make the playoff, and BYU beat them on their home field, 18-15. It was ugly. It was not pretty. It was a Friday night game. I was watching it. Some of you were as well. It was not pretty. BYU found a way to get it done. And then there's some, good wins against TCU or at Duke was a pretty solid win because Duke was a sneaky good team last year in the ACC, which is why I supported SMU getting into the playoff. However, their schedule this year is significantly tougher. And by the way, speaking of that Duke game, they should have lost. They won. Give them credit. It's why I think they should have gotten into the playoff. But when you're asking me how to feel about a team going into a season or where we should place our expectations, I'm going to consider, yeah, they won that Duke game, but boy, that was ugly. I don't really know how they won that game. There were turnovers all over the field. I think SMU's schedule this year, particularly in conference play, is significantly tougher. They have two Big 12 teams again. They play Baylor. They go at TCU, playing teams within their own state. All right, great. They go at Missouri State randomly, which I don't fully understand, but okay, whatever. Their ACC schedule starts like this. Syracuse, who I have power rated as the number 7 team in the ACC, which is a big conference now, 17 teams. Stanford, all right, I have them power rated last. At Clemson. Last time they played Clemson on a neutral site, they lost. How do you think it's going to go against a better Clemson team because they're more experienced? And it's on the road rather than neutral. No, that was a go either way game. Clemson had to win to get in the conference championship game. I'm just saying, I'm not going to pick SMU to win that game. Would be a heck of a statement if they do. So 2-1 feels like the best outcome. Don't for a moment think they couldn't lose to Syracuse on October 4th. They could. They absolutely could. They could also lose at TCU. So they've got to play Syracuse. They've got to play Clemson. They also have to play Miami. They get them at home. They get Louisville at home, who's out for revenge. And then last week of the regular season, I'm just going to throw this out there. They go at Cal. And you know what? Things get weird at Memorial Stadium. The Calgorithm does not hold any punches. Ask Auburn last year. This is not something that it is known to do, to take it easy on folks. So when I was thinking about ACC contenders, should I have SMU in there? Well, last year, their conference schedule was Florida State, who's wound up stinking. Louisville on the road, tough game, impressive win. Stanford, not good. Duke, got fortunate. Pitt, good, not great. Boston College, not great. At Virginia, not great. Cal, not that great, especially away from home. Compared to this year's conference schedule, Syracuse, Stanford, at Clemson, at Wake Forest. I don't think that'll be that hard of a game. Miami, at Boston College, Louisville, at Cal. Significantly tougher. So, to answer my own question, no, I don't think I am overlooking SMU as an ACC title contender. I think they're a good team, but like Indiana, I think they're likely to miss the playoff and wind up in the 7-9 win range as opposed to the 11 wins they had last year. But feel free to tell me I'm wrong, keep receipts, and come back when the season starts in about a month and a half. So, you've been waiting for it. I've been waiting for it. SEC Power Rankings right around the corner. I know my everydayers out there have been waiting for this, and maybe some others who listen not every day, but a lot of days have too. It's time for my SEC preseason power rankings. I've hit the ACC, I've hit the Big 12, I've hit the Big 10, gotten thoughts from others on all of them. I'll get thoughts from others on the SEC, but for now, my unfiltered, unobstructed opinion about where teams should be going into this year. So, first, I'm starting with the reigning SEC champs. Who's going to object to Georgia? Really? Is anyone going to object if you put Georgia in the 1 slot? Maybe you want to put them in the 2 or the 3 slot. You can't put them outside of the top 3. Frankly, I don't know how you'd put them in the 3 slot. Now, Gunnar Stockton hasn't played a lot of football, but he's played some football. I know Kirby Smart's a really good coach. I mean, he said earlier this year that he felt last year was the best coaching job he and his staff have ever done. He's probably right. Last year's roster was not as dominant as past Georgia teams have been. So, To know that Kirby Smart is still a good enough coach, to know that the program is winning double-digit games every single year, that's the floor, and to know they have a quarterback who I at least know something about. I feel like I know as much about Gunnar Stockton as I do about Arch Manning at Texas, where I know the potential is there. I've seen them in real games do some nice stuff. I haven't seen them do it for a full season. Now, that's a theme in the SEC, of course. So Georgia is first, and oh, funny, I mentioned Arch Manning. That wasn't an accident because Texas is second. I really like Texas. Among my favorite teams to make the national championship game this year, Texas is in there. It just hinges on one guy. I know Steve Sarkisian's a good enough head coach. He wasn't when he first broke into the head coaching ranks of college football. He is now. I know that Texas's defense is going to be good enough. That front four, led by Colin Simmons, you have Anthony Hill Jr. up there as a part of a nasty front seven. They've got enough returning from last year's team that was not as good as Ohio State, but still really darn good, and was still close to going to the national championship game. If Arch Manning is good, Texas is going to be really good. Now, they have questions along the offensive line. Yes, they're replacing several pieces from last year's unit. Okay, sure, that's a question. Has Texas recruited poorly? No, Texas has not recruited poorly. I think they're going to be just fine. I've got them number 2. Number 3, this is a coaching pick, and this is a determining factor in a number of my preseason SEC power rankings. Who's your head coach, and how much do I trust him? I almost put Alabama at number 2. I don't know about Ty Simpson. I don't dislike him. I like him less than Arch Manning. However, I'm a big Kalen DeBoer fan. And last year was a failure of a first season for him in Tuscaloosa. You can't win fewer than 10 games in Alabama. I don't care what season it is. I don't care what year it is. I don't care the context. Nothing. Nick Saban did not leave Kalen DeBoer, a roster that should have gone 9-3 and lose a bowl game to Michigan, but they did. That was a failure of a first season. It doesn't mean he's going to be a failure of a head coach. This is not someone who has to win 10 or more games in order to save his job. He'll get at least 3 seasons, just like most other coaches in the SEC and college football writ large. I think he'll last well beyond that. Kalen DeBoer is a winner. Go look at his track record. His first year at Washington, he lost to a 3-9 Arizona State team. 3-9. They went 3-9. Their quarterback was Trenton Bourguet, a walk-on. That's who beat Kalen DeBoer's team that went 11-2 in his first season at Washington. His second year, undefeated, made the national championship game, a game that Washington has never reached before. They have national championships back before we played a national championship game. But in the modern era, Washington had never been there before. He got them there in his second season. I'm not sure. I need to see Ty Simpson in a game before I pick Alabama there. I am so tempted to pick them to be a Final Four or maybe even a national championship team. DeBoer's that good. He's got Ryan Grubb back as his offensive coordinator. I like Alabama a lot. I think they're going to be better on defense than they were a season ago, and they had some key letdowns, but they got better in the second half of the year. I think they'll be all right. LSU at number 4. Top-ranked transfer portal class. My favorite quarterback in the SEC, Garrett Nussmeier. Pressure on Brian Kelly to at least get to the playoff. I don't think it's to win a national championship. LSU needs to get to the playoff. If they don't, I don't think you're firing Brian Kelly, but I think you're increasing the temperature of his seat going into next season. This isn't a guy who's failed to win. He's not Lincoln Riley at USC getting worse each year. He's not Hugh Freeze at Auburn, who has to win a certain number of games or he's fired, or you could apply that to Brent Venables at Oklahoma as well. Like, he's not in that camp of coaches because he has won a pretty good amount. He's made a conference championship game. LSU should get to the playoff. Veteran quarterback, plenty of talent, great transfer portal haul. LSU should make the playoff this year. I don't care what the schedule looks like. It shouldn't matter if you're doing things right down there in Baton Rouge. Number 5, everybody's favorite late season, make a run, get into the playoff team last year, South Carolina. I like Shane Beamer. If I were to rank SEC coaches on game day, Sark would be pretty high, Kirby Smart would be high, Shane Beamer would be really high. And he has quietly done a really good job recruiting and retaining talent. There was a story in On3 this offseason that Dylan Stewart, their star edge player, was courted by other schools, and he said, "No, I'm sticking around. I'm staying here." And that's a guy who you build a defense around. 6.5 sacks in his freshman season as a Gamecock. He's back. Lenore Sellers is one of the most exciting players in college football. That guy's got real Heisman potential. I don't know if he does it this year. Nick Harbor, former 5-star recruit, who's just a football player, frankly, could play either way. He could play defensive end, tight end, H-back. You could hand him the ball. I bet he could throw the ball if you really wanted him to. I like South Carolina, and I think Shane Beamer's a darn good coach. I feel really good, actually, putting the Gamecocks there at number 5. I almost put them above LSU. Almost. But I do trust Nussmeier a little bit more than Sellers at this point in time. You never know. That could change. Next on the list. This is where it got tough. I went through making these rankings. The top 5 to me were pretty easy. Like I didn't struggle a lot with those teams. I did with the next few. So next in this spot, I have Oklahoma. I think there are plenty of people that would put Florida here. That to me is a little bit of late season recency bias. If you want to make that case with South Carolina, okay, fine. I like Shane Beamer a lot more than I like Billy Napier as a coach by a sizable amount. Billy Napier is underachieving at Florida. Shane Beamer is doing no such thing at South Carolina. And I know that the Gators got hot and they beat Ole Miss. And, of course, Florida State was terrible. And they did a lot of really good things. And Florida's not way down in the power rankings for me here. And I almost had them above the next team. But, again, I'll come back to the coaching aspect. I'm not the biggest Brent Venables fan. I do like John Mateer. I have questions about John Mateer. But Brent Venables' defense last year was good. The offense, atrocious. New OC, new quarterback, who at the very least is going to make some plays with his legs and is going to excite the Sooner fan base. So I think that Oklahoma is in a pressure spot for Brent Venables. If he misses a bowl game this year or goes 6-6 again, he might be shown the door. And you know what? I wouldn't push back in the slightest. In his regular seasons, let me take out the bowl games for a moment because those can get weird. Quarterbacks opt out, all that stuff. 6 wins, 10 wins, 6 wins. Sorry, that I don't care what conference you're in. That's not Oklahoma Sooner football. That looks like a guy who's overmatched rather than elevating the program to where your rival is, who's making back-to-back semifinals in the sport. Oklahoma and Texas shouldn't be a big difference between those two. Slide edge Texas, the gap is way too wide. Way too wide when you're talking about the actual results that those teams are achieving outside of Red River each year. I do like Oklahoma. I question John Mateer. I question Lenore Sellers a little less because I've seen him do it in the SEC. I think Mateer's got plenty of potential, arm talent, moves, size. There's going to be an adjustment phase. Week 2 against Michigan, Oklahoma got to win that football game. Got to win that football game. Rounding it out, and I'll continue discussing this throughout the week, Ole Miss, then Florida. This is the coaching gap. And by the way, my next 3 teams are Ole Miss, Florida, Texas A&M. If you gave me a list with these 4, if you made your own power rankings and you said, I have Texas A&M first, then Florida, then Oklahoma, then Ole Miss, I wouldn't push back. I really wouldn't. Like these 4 to me are essentially a tie. I like Mike Elko a lot. I think Marcel Reed is good. I think the Texas A&M roster is good. I think all of those things. I have Florida slightly above them because I like DJ Lagway more than I like Marcel Reed because DJ Lagway, boy, you talk about somebody with real 5-star potential who is showcased. If Florida gets the most out of him, that could save Billy Napier's bacon, and that, of course, being his job. I don't know that that's going to happen. We'll see. We will see. Because don't forget, Billy Napier got hot at the end of last year. He also, in the first 3 weeks of the season, got housed at home by Texas A&M, who was good, not great, and Miami, who was good, not great. Got destroyed. Don't forget all of that. So those 4, to me, pretty interchangeable. Then Tennessee would be higher on this list, but I have them at the top of the next crop of teams, the final crop of teams, really, because I trust Josh Heupel. I like Josh Heupel. This is a guy who's won with several different quarterbacks. He's got a quarterback-friendly offense. He doesn't have Nico. He's got Joey Aguilar. We'll see how it goes. I think the rest of the roster is quite good, but the quarterback, ooh, boy, if they still had Nico, I'd probably have Tennessee above Oklahoma. Probably. But they don't, and so I do not. And rounding out the list, Missouri, then Auburn, those two pretty interchangeable. Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Kentucky. Vanderbilt, not last. Anybody that ranks Vanderbilt last in the power rankings is thinking it's still 2015. That's a Vanderbilt program that beat Alabama and Auburn last year. Diego Pavia's back, and Clark Lee's going for a second straight winning season. I am here for it. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time, and until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.